Colorado, the elk run the show. Day 2 of camp. A little bit sore. Tends to happen at this thing. Getting all those reps in, get your bruises. Having fun, learning a lot. Greatest group of people you could ever imagine. Super friendly, always willing to pass on any knowledge that they have. Air's a little thin up here. Makes me feel like I'm out of shape, but that's okay.
It becomes an angle 3. What's nice is I simply use the whole structure. What'd you say? Oh, okay. Sorry. Chris said that hurt. Okay.
MBC Camp is the only place where prospective instructors are able to test for certification in the system. Before the test began, we were able to sit down with Mike Janich, the founder of Martial Blade Concepts, for a few questions. Janich has been a student and instructor of self-defense for over 40 years. His extensive knowledge and expertise in martial arts and combatives makes him one of the foremost experts in this area. And though his humbleness wouldn't allow him to say so, he's a living legend in the eyes of many. He's a prolific author and co-host of the Best Defense TV show on the Outdoor Channel. His list of accolades and achievements runs much further and deeper than we have time to mention.
So, you're recording.
Awesome.
Mike, what is your background? What got you into all this defense stuff?
So I've been interested in martial arts since I was a kid. Grew up in the Chicago area, and early 1970s was kind of the beginning of the big martial arts boom, the Bruce Lee era and all that type of stuff. So it was a popular culture thing. And I also grew up in a place called Cicero, which is kind of a grungy suburb of Chicago, where self-defense skills were kind of a useful aspect of life skills.
What would you say are the advantages NBC has over other systems?
It's one thing to have skill with a sword or with a big bladed knife or something like that, but when you carry a knife that has a 3-inch blade, your tactics have to be appropriate for that as well. So really the logic of MBC, I think, is the thing that is most distinctive about us and what separates us from the traditional Filipino martial arts. You're going to fight with the knife you actually carry. You want to make sure you quantify the destructive power of that knife. You want to make sure that you focus on stopping power, which is the real goal in self-defense, is stopping the attacker. And in putting those things together, what you also have to do is make sure that you have a good knowledge of human anatomy, so that the anatomy, your anatomical knowledge, allows you to take the knife you carry and the destructive capacity and achieve stopping power in an efficient, effective way.
What is the value of this training in our current societal climate, if you will? Things seem to be getting very interesting as of late.
Things are getting very interesting, and it's to backtrack a little bit as far as my kind of the historical development of MBC. A lot of people say, well, why would you prefer to carry a knife? Why would you do that in the first place? If you can carry a gun, that would be better. So when I was in the military, when I was working for the government, I lived overseas, lived in places where I couldn't own a gun. I certainly couldn't carry a gun, but I was also traveling to places where there was high levels of violence. I was working in detention centers in Hong Kong, working in detention centers and in refugee camps in the Philippines, all throughout Southeast Asia. So even though I had a diplomatic passport, still couldn't own a gun, carry a gun. So the knife also became a thing where it's like, hey, I can carry this, I have a lethal weapon. If I have skills in its use, this is something that can go with me everywhere. So when we fast forward now to modern climate, what we have is more and more situations where the way that the powers that be want to keep us safe is by denying us access to weapons. So when we look at the gun control aspects of things, non-permissive environments, just all the limitations that are associated with that, the knife is still something that we can carry just about everywhere in the U.S. It's something that's convenient, and it really is something that's easy to make part of your everyday lifestyle. So when you look at the knife as a weapon of choice, it makes sense. because of its versatility and its ability to use it anywhere. And then what we look at with the training is how can we take the same basic tactics and be able to apply them to a broad set of circumstances. Many people, when they look at knife fighting, they say, okay, it's dueling, two guys with knives. We always dispel that right off the bat. We say what we're trying to do is use the knife in justifiable circumstances where we're in fear of our life or in fear of grievous bodily injury, but a broad set of circumstances. So now if you've got somebody, let's say, picking up a skateboard and wants to bash your head in with it, can you use your knife to defend against that? Absolutely. So what we do is we take the same skills that we would develop in standard MBC, and what we start doing is looking at world events, looking at societal events, looking at what potential threats we might face, and say, okay, how do we take our skills and adapt it to that, and adapt it to that? And that's one of the other unique things about MBC is we're constantly relating back to the problem. So the problem is the actual potential for violent threats that we face, and making sure that our techniques always can be applied to those situations.
So, many people, I feel, want to know how to defend themselves, but they're apprehensive in getting started, whether that means they're just kind of intimidated to be a beginner at something again, or maybe they're afraid that they won't be automatically good when they start. What would you say to those people who have a sort of inherent interest in this and want to learn how to defend themselves or their family members, but just have that apprehension?
Well, one of the things we try to do in MBC, one of the things that I've developed as far as my teaching methodology, is to front load a lot of the intellectual side of what we do. And what I mean by that is, how does our stuff work? What is the logic behind what we do? And what that also allows people to do, if they want to research MBC, if they want to get familiar with it, they can kind of do a lot of homework before they ever step out on the mat. So what it allows them to do is to prepare mentally to look at stuff and say, okay, I understand what he's trying to achieve. I know that I don't have that skill yet, but I can wrap my head around the concept of what we're trying to achieve. So when I do get out there and do the physical part, I'm only focusing on the physical skill. I don't have to take in everything. And what it does is it empowers people because they have a clearer understanding of what they're trying to achieve. The learning process becomes easier, and it kind of takes away that intimidation. I think it's also helpful to look at, especially if you have a chance to observe an MBC event or just become familiar with who we are as a community, what you're going to see is we have people who are training well into their 60s and early 70s. We have people who have all types of physical ailments and stuff like that, whether it's an illness, a pre-existing condition, some type of bad shoulder, bad knee, whatever it is. One of the big things we do is we try to make sure that whatever we do, we're empowering you to work with the physical attributes you've got now and make the best of them and be efficient. So simply understanding that we're not going to try to make you into an Olympic athlete who has to jump and do flying kicks and all this other kind of stuff. We're going to look at you and say, okay, cool. Based on who you are as a person, we'll adapt our skills and give you something that you can use. And I think that mindset is a great way of taking away that intimidation because it's much more welcoming than what you'll get from a lot of martial arts.
I would have to say that you did very well at that. Also, it's a very welcoming community. So.
It's a great community. I'm reminded every year at Martial Blade Camp, I have a bunch of people come together. It's tons of work for me to organize the event and everything else. But once everyone comes together, the generosity of the sponsors, the generosity of the instructors as far as helping people out, everyone goes out of their way to care for everybody else. And you really see that focused in this event, but then you see it all year long. We've had people this year, 2020 has been just a crazy year for everybody, and there's been a lot of people who, in addition to the broad scope of things, have had individual setbacks and challenges. And every time you see the MBC community rally around them, just words of encouragement, help, financial support, whatever it is. Once people get into the MBC family and they realize how special it is, it's great because it's very self-selecting. We get the right people for the right reasons, and people who are looking to feed their ego, people who are looking for rank and black belts and all that other kind of stuff, who are training for very different reasons. They realize they don't fit here, and the crowd of good people continues to grow because good people attract other good people.
Absolutely. All right, third and final day, MBC Camp 2020. I am playing a little bit of hooky this morning. Didn't want to slam my phone on the door. Playing a little bit of hooky this morning. Going to find a sweet spot to go fly my drone. Trying to figure out where's a good spot to do it, because apparently you can't fly your drone in and around Estes Park. Let's see. Directions to Meeker Park.
Meeker Park is 21 minutes from your location by car in light traffic. Here are your directions.
Not bad. So MBC Camp is really awesome. Pro tip number 1. If you want to get really good at arm bars and compression locks and some of the other things that are going on, frequently ask the instructors to watch your technique, critique you, and help. Pro tip number 2. If you do this, you will be put into many precarious positions, and after 100 or 200 reps, you will be sore as hell the next day. Woke up this morning and my right shoulder did not want to move whatsoever.
Continue on Colorado 7 East for 12 miles.
First beer of the day. Just kidding, guys. Just a V8. Tell you what though, if you're headed to Colorado, getting an Infinity Q60 is not a bad choice. This thing really handles in the mountains. In fact, almost too good. I find myself driving way too fast. But it's fun. What did we learn at camp this year? Well, not only is Marshall Blade Concepts an awesome, dynamic, evolving system that makes it easy for people to learn how to defend themselves and their family members, but there's something more to it. Mike Janich, through these years, has created something special. Being here in Colorado, what were the most awesome parts? Fun car, swerving through the mountains. It was enjoyable. Learning new techniques. Getting better at ones that I already knew. It's one of those things where you just get sad as soon as it's over. But all good things need to end somehow. And that's just the nature of it. It needs to end so it can begin again. And I would say the most wonderful thing that I've learned on this trip was not the techniques, was not more about camera gear, travel. The best thing was being with all of the members of the MBC community. Because when you learn MBC and you get into it, you go to these seminars, you go to camp, and you're interacting with these people, it's a family. And having an extra family, that's amazing. And that's hard to come by. And I think it's a testament to the character of Mike Janich and the system itself that this fantastic community of people has come together. It's something that's just greater than the sum of its parts. And that's why I'm sad that it's over. And now I'm going home. But there's always next year. And I hope that more people join this community. Because, honestly, it's one of the best things I've ever been a part of. Do you ever just take a step back and look at the community you've built, basically the fruits of your labor, and just say, wow, this is something incredible?
Every day, I see just the kindness and the generosity of everybody in the MBC family, and we're reminded of that every day. The more I look at the community and the more that I see the interaction between people and how they help each other out and everything, that's the real legacy.